I am sitting in my living room right now, looking out at the small garden Lucia and I built together over the past 2 years. The evening light is soft, the house is quiet, and everything feels peaceful. But my phone just rang a few minutes ago, a number I did not recognize. When I answered, I heard my mother crying. She said Derek has changed. She said he wants to apologize. She said the family needs to come back together. After 8 years of silence, she wants me to forgive the brother who made my childhood a nightmare. Before I tell you what happened next and why that phone call changed nothing, let me ask you something. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below. If you believe that forgiveness should be earned and not forced, hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Now let me take you back to where everything began, back to a house in Ohio where I learned that sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. I grew up in a suburb outside of Columbus, Ohio. Our house was a 2-story brick building with a big backyard and a white fence. From the outside, it looked like the kind of place where a happy family would live. But inside those walls, the reality was completely different. My brother Derek was 5 years older than me. From the moment I can remember, my mother Linda treated us like we were two entirely different species. Derek was the golden child. He was taller, more athletic, better at school, and according to my mother, better at everything. She talked about him like he was a miracle. His report cards went on the refrigerator. His sports trophies filled an entire shelf in the living room. His photos covered almost every wall in the house. And then there was me. I was the quiet one, the one who liked to draw and read books instead of playing football. I was the one who got average grades and never won any awards. In my mother's eyes, I was a disappointment before I even had a chance to prove myself. My father Richard was a different kind of problem. He was not cruel like my mother. He was just absent. Even when he was physically in the house, he was somewhere else. He worked long hours at his accounting firm, and when he came home, he disappeared into his study or sat in front of the television. He never took sides, never intervened, never said anything when things got bad. His silence was not neutral. It was a choice. I remember the first time I noticed how different my mother treated us. I was about 6 years old, and I had drawn a picture of our family. 4 stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. I was so proud of it. I ran to show my mother, and she barely glanced at it before putting it aside. That same week, Derek brought home a participation ribbon from a track meet, and she acted like he had won an Olympic gold medal. She hugged him, called my father to come see, and even took photos of him holding the ribbon. That was the moment I started to understand my place in this family. The bullying started small. When I was around 8 years old and Derek was 13, he began hiding my things. My favorite toys would disappear from my room and show up days later in strange places, broken or damaged. My homework would vanish the night before it was due. My books would have pages torn out. I thought I was going crazy at first, forgetting where I put things, being careless. But then I caught him once sneaking out of my room with my baseball glove in his hand. When I confronted him, he just laughed. I told my mother. I remember exactly what she said. She told me that boys will be boys. She told me to stop being so sensitive. She told me that Derek was just playing around and I needed to learn to handle it. She made me feel like I was the problem, like I was overreacting, like I should be grateful to even have a brother. Derek heard every word. And he learned something important that day. He learned that he could do whatever he wanted to me and nothing would happen. Things got worse after that. Derek started telling lies about me to his friends and to kids at school. He spread rumors that I wet the bed, that I cried every night, that I was weird and had no friends. Some of those rumors followed me through elementary school and into middle school. Kids who did not even know me would call me names in the hallway because of things Derek had said. The worst moment from those early years happened when I was 10. I had spent weeks working on a drawing for my grandmother. Grandma Rose was my mother's mother, and she was the only person in my family who seemed to actually see me. She lived about 30 minutes away, and every weekend I got to visit her. She taught me how to make pancakes and how to plant tomatoes in her garden. She listened when I talked and hugged me when I cried. I loved her more than anyone. For her birthday, I drew a detailed portrait of her house with her rose garden in front. I used colored pencils and worked on it every day after school. I was so proud of it. The night before her birthday party, Derek came into my room while I was getting ready for bed. He picked up the drawing from my desk, looked at it, and then slowly, deliberately tore it in half. Then he tore those halves into smaller pieces. He did it right in front of me with a smile on his face. I screamed for my mother. She came running, saw the torn pieces on the floor, and asked what happened. Before I could say anything, Derek said I had thrown a tantrum and ripped it myself. My mother looked at me, looked at Derek, and then said the words that broke something inside me. She said, "Just draw another one." She did not ask me what really happened. She did not investigate. She just accepted Derek's lie and walked away. I stayed up all night trying to tape the pieces back together, but it was ruined. The next day at the party, I gave Grandma Rose a store-bought card instead. She hugged me and told me it was beautiful, but I could see in her eyes that she knew something was wrong. Later that day, Grandma Rose pulled me aside and asked me to tell her the truth. I told her everything. The hiding, the lies, the torn drawing. She held me while I cried, and then she said something I never forgot. She said that one day I would be free from all of this, and when that day came, I needed to be ready. A few months later, Grandma Rose did something that would eventually save my life. She opened a savings account in my name without telling anyone in my family. Every month she deposited whatever she could spare, $20 here, $50 there. She told me about it during one of our weekend visits and made me promise to keep it secret. She said, "This money is your freedom. When the time comes, you will know what to do with it." I did not understand then how important those words would become. Grandma Rose passed away when I was 15. It was a heart attack, sudden and unexpected. One day she was teaching me how to make her famous apple pie, and 2 weeks later she was gone. I had never experienced loss like that before. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and pulled out the only source of warmth I had. At her funeral, I was the only one who really cried. My mother shed a few tears for show, but she spent most of the time talking to relatives about how hard it was for her to lose her mother. Derek did not even pretend to be sad. He sat in the back, playing games on his phone. With Grandma Rose gone, I had no protection left, and Derek seemed to sense it. The bullying escalated from emotional and psychological to physical. Derek was 18 by then, a senior in high school, and I was a freshman. He had gotten bigger, more muscular from years of football practice. I was still small for my age, still the quiet kid who spent too much time alone. The first time he hit me was a month after the funeral. I cannot even remember what started it. Some argument about who got to use the bathroom first. He shoved me against the wall so hard that I saw stars. When I tried to push back, he punched me in the stomach. I doubled over, unable to breathe, and he walked away like nothing had happened. I went to school the next day with bruises on my ribs. I wore loose shirts and hoped no one would notice. A teacher asked me once if everything was okay at home, and I lied. I said I had fallen off my bike. I do not know why I lied. Maybe I was ashamed. Maybe I still believed that things would get better if I just waited. They did not get better. The violence became routine. Derek would hit me whenever he was bored or angry or just felt like it. He knew exactly where to punch, so the bruises would be hidden under clothes. He learned to avoid my face because that would be too obvious. My mother saw the bruises once when my sleeve rode up. She asked what happened, and Derek said I had gotten into a fight at school. She believed him immediately. She even lectured me about controlling my temper. My father saw too. I know he did. Once I caught him looking at a bruise on my arm with something that might have been concern. But he said nothing. He just looked away and went back to his newspaper. His silence was louder than any words could have been. I learned to survive in that house by becoming invisible. I stayed in my room as much as possible. I ate quickly and quietly at meals. I avoided eye contact with Derek. I counted the days until I could leave. The worst night of my entire childhood happened when I was 17. It was the week of my junior prom. I had been looking forward to it for months. There was a girl in my chemistry class named Megan who I had finally gathered the courage to ask. She said yes. For the first time in years, I felt like maybe things could be normal for me. I worked 2 jobs that spring, one at a fast food restaurant and one at a grocery store to save money for a suit and flowers. I found a nice gray suit at a discount store and spent hours making sure it fit perfectly. I bought a corsage of white roses for Megan. I even practiced my dance moves in my room when no one was watching. I was ready for one perfect night. The evening before prom, Derek came home drunk with some of his old high school friends. He was 22 by then, supposedly living at home while he figured out his next steps after college. He had been drinking a lot since graduation, and he got meaner when he drank. I was in my room laying out my suit for the next day when he burst through my door. His eyes were bloodshot, and his breath smelled like beer. His friends were laughing somewhere downstairs. He looked at my suit hanging on the closet door. He looked at my shoes polished and ready on the floor. He looked at the corsage in its plastic box on my desk, and then he smiled. What happened next took less than a minute but destroyed something that had taken me months to build. Derek grabbed my suit jacket and ripped it down the middle. Then he yanked the pants off the hanger and tore them at the seam. He picked up my shoes and poured his half-finished beer into both of them. He crushed the corsage box under his foot, and while he did all of this, he kept talking. He told me I was pathetic. He told me no girl would ever really want me. He told me I was worthless and always had been. I screamed for help. I screamed louder than I had ever screamed in my life. My mother came running. She stood in my doorway and looked at the destruction. She looked at me crying on my knees, trying to salvage the torn fabric. She looked at Derek standing there with beer dripping from his fingers. And then she said, "Derek, why would you do that? Not angry, not upset, just mildly annoyed. Like he had broken a dish instead of destroying everything I had worked for." Derek shrugged and said I had provoked him. He said I had said something disrespectful about him to his friends earlier. It was a complete lie, but my mother nodded like it made perfect sense. She turned to me and said I could borrow something from Derek's closet. She said it was not the end of the world. She said I was overreacting. My father appeared in the hallway, saw what was happening, sighed deeply, and walked away without a word. I did not go to prom. I texted Megan that I was sick and could not make it. She never spoke to me again. I heard later that she thought I had stood her up on purpose. Our friendship, whatever it was, ended that night. I lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, and I made a decision. I was going to leave this house and never come back. I was going to use the money Grandma Rose had saved for me, and I was going to build a new life somewhere far away. I was going to survive, and I was going to do it without them. For the next year, I planned in secret. I researched colleges in other states. I applied to schools in Colorado, Oregon, Washington, anywhere that was far from Ohio. I got accepted to a university in Colorado with a partial scholarship. The money Grandma Rose had saved for me had grown to about $15,000. It was enough for a security deposit on an apartment, for books, for food until I could find a job. It was enough for freedom. On the day I left, I did not say goodbye. I packed one suitcase while everyone was asleep, wrote a short note, and left it on the kitchen table. The note said that I was no longer part of this family and that I did not want to be found. Then I drove to the airport and boarded a flight to Denver. My mother called my phone over 50 times that first week. I did not answer once. After 7 days, I changed my number. I deleted my social media accounts. I disappeared, and I started to live. 8 years passed. I am 26 now, and my life looks nothing like it did when I was that scared teenager in Ohio. I graduated from college with a degree in software engineering. I worked hard, got good grades, and landed a job at a tech company in Denver right after graduation. I have been promoted twice since then. I make good money. I have a retirement account. I have health insurance. I have stability. But the best thing that happened to me was not my career. It was meeting Lucia. I met her 3 years ago at a hiking trail outside the city. She was with a group of friends and I was alone, which was how I spent most of my weekends back then. We ended up walking the same path and she started talking to me. She had this energy about her, this warmth that made me feel like I had known her forever. Lucia is Puerto Rican, born and raised in New York before moving to Denver for nursing school. She is kind and strong and patient. She has this way of listening that makes you feel like what you are saying actually matters. On our third date, I told her about my childhood. All of it. The bullying, the beatings, the indifference, the escape. I expected her to pull away, to think I was damaged goods. Instead, she held my hand and told me she was proud of me for surviving. We got married 2 years ago in a small ceremony at a park near our house. Her family came from New York. My side was empty except for a few close friends. It was the happiest day of my life. We bought a small house in the suburbs last year. It has a yard where Lucia grows tomatoes and peppers just like Grandma Rose used to do. I built a little workshop in the garage where I can work on woodworking projects on weekends. We adopted a dog named Biscuit who follows me everywhere. Life is good. Life is peaceful. Life is everything I never had as a child. I also spent years in therapy working through the trauma of my childhood. I learned words for things I had experienced. Words like emotional neglect and scapegoat and enabling. I learned that what happened to me was not my fault, that I did not deserve any of it, that I was not the broken one. Healing has been slow and painful, but it has been worth it. I had not spoken to anyone in my biological family since the day I left. I assumed they had moved on with their lives, probably telling everyone that I was the difficult one, the ungrateful son who abandoned them. I did not care what they thought. I was free. And then one evening last month my phone rang. I did not recognize the number, but something made me answer. And there it was. My mother's voice, older and shakier than I remembered. She started crying immediately. She said she had spent years trying to find me. She said my father was sick now, diabetes that had gotten out of control, complications that were affecting his heart. She said Derek had changed. Derek had gotten divorced. Derek had lost his job. Derek had been in therapy and realized how wrong he had been. Derek wanted to apologize. Derek needed closure. Derek felt remorseful. Derek. Even after 8 years, the conversation was still about Derek. My mother begged me to come home for Thanksgiving. She said the family needed to heal. She said Derek deserved a chance to make things right. She said I was being selfish by holding on to the past. I listened to everything without interrupting. When she finally stopped talking, she asked the question she had been building toward the whole time. She asked if I would come home. I took a deep breath. I looked at Lucia, who was sitting across from me on the couch, watching my face with concern. She reached over and squeezed my hand. She did not say anything. She did not need to. Her presence was enough. I told my mother I would think about it. Then I hung up. For the next few days, I could not stop thinking about that conversation. Not because I was considering going back. I knew I would never set foot in that house again. But I realized that I had things I needed to say, things I had been carrying for 8 years, things that had never been spoken out loud. I decided to write an email, not to reconcile, not to forgive, just to finally tell my truth. It took me 3 days to write it. Lucia read every draft and helped me find the right words. When it was finally done, I sent it to my mother, my father, and Derek. The email was long. It detailed everything. Every incident I could remember, every bruise, every lie, every moment of betrayal. I described the stolen toys and the torn homework and the rumors spread at school. I described the physical violence that started after Grandma Rose died. I described the night before prom in detail, so specific that no one could deny what had happened. I wrote about my parents, too. I told my mother that her favoritism was not subtle, that I had felt it every single day of my childhood, that her refusal to protect me was a form of abuse, just as real as Derek's fists. I told my father that his silence was not neutrality, that by saying nothing, he had chosen Derek's side every time, that he was complicit in everything that happened. And then I wrote the part that mattered most. I wrote that Derek's remorse meant nothing to me. I wrote that he was not sorry for hurting me. He was sorry because his life had fallen apart and he needed someone to forgive him so he could feel better about himself. His apology was not about me. It was about him. It had always been about him. I wrote that I did not need their apology. I did not need their closure. I did not need their family. I had built my own life, my own home, my own family, and they had no place in it. I ended the email with one sentence. I wrote that I wished them well, but I wished them well from a distance, and that distance would never change. After I sent it, I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt light. I felt free. I felt like a weight I had been carrying since childhood had finally been lifted. The responses came quickly. My mother called over and over. I blocked her number. She sent emails begging me to reconsider. I did not reply. She even tried calling Lucia's phone somehow. Lucia blocked her too. Derek sent me a long message through Facebook. He apologized. He said he had been in therapy. He said he understood now how much he had hurt me. He asked for a chance to talk, just one conversation, so he could show me how much he had changed. I read his message once, then blocked him. My father sent nothing. After a lifetime of silence, he remained silent. Somehow that was the least surprising thing of all. It has been a few weeks since I sent that email. The calls have stopped. The messages have stopped. I assume my family has finally understood that I meant what I said. I do not feel angry anymore. For a long time, anger was the only emotion I could access when I thought about my childhood. But therapy and time and love have changed that. Now I mostly feel sad. Sad for the little boy I used to be who deserved so much better. Sad for the years I lost to fear and pain. Sad that the people who were supposed to love me chose not to. But I also feel grateful. Grateful for Grandma Rose, who saw me when no one else did, who gave me the gift of freedom before she died. Grateful for Lucia, who loves me exactly as I am, scars and all. Grateful for the life I have built brick by brick from nothing. The journey of healing is not over. I do not think it ever really ends. There are still nights when I wake up from bad dreams, still moments when something triggers a memory I thought I had buried. But I am learning to be gentle with myself. I am learning that survival is its own kind of victory. If you are watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, I want you to know something. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. You are not the problem. The people who hurt you are the problem. And you do not owe them your forgiveness just because they share your blood. Forgiveness is a gift, not a debt. It should be earned, not demanded. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away and never look back. Family is not just the people you are born to. Family is the people who choose to love you, who show up for you, who protect you when you cannot protect yourself. I lost my biological family a long time ago. But I found a real family in Lucia and my friends in the community I have built here in Colorado, and that family is more than enough. I am sitting in my living room now, watching the sun set through the window. Lucia is in the kitchen making dinner. Biscuit is asleep at my feet. The house smells like garlic and tomatoes. Everything is peaceful. I do not know what will happen with my biological family. I do not know if my father will survive his illness. I do not know if Derek will ever truly change. I do not know if my mother will ever understand what she did wrong. But I know this. I am not going back. I am not reopening that door. I am not sacrificing my peace for their comfort. Some bridges need to burn, and some fires set you free. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to cut ties with family members who hurt you? How did you find the strength to walk away? Share your story in the comments below. Your experience might help someone else who is going through the same thing. If this story touched you, please hit the like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to this channel so you do not miss future videos. Your support means the world to me. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you find peace in your own journey, whatever that looks like. Remember, you deserve to be loved the right way. And if the people around you cannot do that, you have every right to find people who can. Take care of yourself. You are worth it.